All right, what's up? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another open live Q&A. My name is Mr. McLogan, and I'm ready to take any questions that you guys have working on throughout on the school year. If you have any math questions, you can always go ahead and submit those to brianmclogan.com/Q&A. And I'm thinking we might be able to get into some math. I wasn't planning. I had to kind of do the stream, when I had a moment of time, because that's usually how my Sundays go now. I'm not able to schedule them like I used to. So I always feel bad on that. But I do have the open live Q&A. I'm sorry, the brianmclogan.com/Q&A link. It is in the description if you want to go ahead and post a comment or a question over there, a math question, and then I can go ahead and bring it up on the screen and try to do my best. I do have a backlog of some questions, so if I don't get any new ones that going through there, then I will probably hit up a couple math questions that I can go ahead and work through on there for you guys as well. So we'll just kind of see where it goes. If you have any other just general comments or questions, you guys can always go ahead and add them into chat as always. And this is a live stream, so that is what I always like to do on these Sundays streams is go through and answer your guys' questions. And, anything you guys are, working on, or you just want a little advice or a question on whatever else I can help you out on. Let me see. Open live Q&A. There we go. We'll go and see if any questions pop in from you guys. And so I hope the school year is going good for you. Hey, Goat 9383. Good to have you on. Why is that looking like that? Let's bring that down. There we go. Hey, Angelic Fox. Adya. Hey, can you do related rates problems involving a triangle? Unfortunately, probably not. It's been a while since I did some calculus. And one thing I do want to start working through, I just got done with another renovation that I had to work on. So it kind of took me away from my production. Again, same thing from last year, but I am wrapping it up. So I am looking into making some content content for this year. But a lot of my calculus stuff is probably going to be on my calculus channel that I have. But I will plan on getting into stuff. I want my math back. Okay. Hey, Starla. Hey, thank you for helping me with my ACE math test. That's awesome. Congrats to you. And I think that is something I'm happy I could be a part of, but I definitely want to give congrats to you to putting in the work because, I know to ace a math test or even just to do better than you previously did, it always takes work. It takes effort. So good to you. And I'm glad I could be there to help you out. Can I explain graphing trigonometry? Yes, I can. But I actually have a video that I did not too long ago, which was graphing tangent fast. It was only like a couple weeks back. I think that would be whatever I do for tangent, sine, and cosine. Kind of all goes off the same thing with the unit circle. So if you submit to brianmclogan.com/Q&A, then that will give me at least a better idea, or you can be a little bit more detailed on like how to graph them. So therefore I know if we're doing something quickly or longwise or whatever else from there. Just a question. What do you think is the best way to remember math questions? This is a great question and something I get a lot. So as a math teacher, I was not a big proponent of students memorizing math equations. However, there's two things that I emphasize with them. If you do the problem or you do the equation or you use it enough, you will have it memorized by the time for the test. So there's one thing I say, practice using the equations, practice using them inside of problems. By doing this over and over, you will get those equations and formulas memorized. However, I know at like a final exam or like a test, you might have a ton of formulas, a ton of equations, and it might not be possible to simply do so many practice problems of doing every single one that you always have them ingrained in your memory. So one thing I would always recommend is creating a cheat sheet, rewriting them down multiple times. That will help with that memory of you remembering what they are. But then also as a teacher, I always gave my students a formula sheet because I didn't want their grade to be impacted if they remembered or didn't remember a formula. So I never stressed on them of having to memorize formulas, but I did stress on them doing the practice problems with the formulas. So therefore, even though they had the formula sheet, a lot of the students never even had to use it because it was kind of ingrained in them. For piecewise struggles, I'm still struggling on finding A and B after plugging in the X. Can you go ahead and submit a problem to me at brianmclogan.com/Q&A, and I can go ahead and take a look at that. I'm not 100% sure. Awesome, Foot Real. That's so good. Congrats to you. I love it. Um, do remind me, what is the IGC SE though? What country are you from? I'm just kind of curious on that because I know I don't have any topics or videos exactly for that test, but I am kind of interested to see. Can I help? I absolutely can. I do need a little bit more information for you on there. So if you want to submit a question or a picture of the problem or maybe a little bit more details at brianmclogan.com/Q&A, then I can help you out with that. Hey, Potato Mito. Well, thank you very much from India. I love it. And also, I do have, check on some of my more recent videos. I do have some YouTube videos that I have translated or dubbed, actually. And I'd be interested if you click on those recent videos, if you get some of those translations and see how that dubbing actually works. Love from Canada. Thanks for your help. I watched one of your videos last week and aced my death test. Awesome. Congrats to you. Dubai. Love it. Okay. Thank you. You are very welcome. All right, let's go and see. Ooh, I do have some responses coming through. And I'm not sure if this was from you guys because I think I had 86 last week. So let's go and pull up we'll go and see your guys' questions. Sir, can you please explain the quadratic formula? I can, but what do you want me to explain on the quadratic formula? Like, where does it come from? Like, how to use it? How to remember it. I need a little bit more details. You know, as a math teacher, I just don't like to ramble, even while I do like to ramble. So that's why if you give me a specific stuff, then I can kind of go off from there. I can, but not all of the limits. If you send me over a specific question or a specific problem, that's be a lot helpful. Obviously, limits is something I would teach within a whole chapter. So I mean, there's tons of different examples I can go through. And as I mentioned earlier in the stream, it's been a while since I did through the calculus, so my instruction might not be on point. So depending on the problem, I might defer to a later time, just because I always want to make sure I'm refreshed on my explanations and that I can deliver some value to you. Hey, Gabe, good to have you on. Hope you're doing well. I've been so swamped with college work, reading the word, running and lifting has helped me inside. Yes, awesome. I can totally agree with that. So when I started this renovation, I had to stop going to the gym. And it's like everything just kind of took a different turn when I wasn't able to go to the gym. So I'm really excited to get back into the gym, get back into that rhythm and routine that I had, because I think that's important. When you're going through the school, you're finding something that gives you that routine. When I was in school, high school, I played all sports. So that kept me in a routine. It kept me active. I think working out and, gives you that dopamine of, always pushing your muscles and always pushing yourself. And so that's something that I like thrive on. That's something I need. And again, you don't always it doesn't have to be from sports, but I always think it's very important to have a schedule, something that you can abide by, because otherwise you're just kind of like a feather in the wind and you just say, go wherever the wind is kind of going. So it's really important to have a schedule that you can follow through and something that also gives you energy. And working out and sports back in the day used to do that for me. Oh, how do you do negative exponents? Well, just remember a negative exponent is just going to be the reciprocal. So I'll give you a quick little question on this. If you have a specific problem, you can submit at brianmclogan.com/Q&A. But, basically any number raised to a negative power, all you simply need to be able to do to have that as a positive power is to take the reciprocal of that. So for example, 3 to the negative second can be rewritten as a positive power as 1 over 3 to the second. And if you had 1 over 3 to the negative second, to rewrite it as a positive power, you just reciprocate that, which would be 3 to the positive 2 over 1, or just 3 to the positive 2. I want to prepare for the European Math Olympiad, but I need a roadmap. Love from Belgium. Well, awesome. I don't think I've had somebody comment from Belgium. So congratulations. I think you're the first one. I love it. Not to say I'm sure I'm assuming I've had some other viewers, but you're the first one to comment from there, at least as far as I can remember. So I'm not familiar with the Math Olympiad, anything on the European kind of roadmap from that case, but I would just do some research and look for, what groups or what process you have. And then, particularly if you can find either a coach or a group to kind of study and work through, that's going to be the best. We had an honor math club at my school that I helped start. And, whatever competitions you're going into, I think it was just always important to have people that can challenge you, and then people that also can support you, and people that you can go to practice with and do the work. So I would look for a support group or a coach that can, that help you guys prepare. I don't have any specific things to offer to you in that regard. But I think if you can get a solid group and people to bounce off ideas off and help hone your skills, that'll be the best. Not sure if you understand physics, but how do you find the Vx of projectile motion? It's been a long time since I touched anything with physics, and I don't enjoy doing too much in physics. So unfortunately, I don't have a great answer for you. I don't even recall the formulas for projectile motion. So yeah, unfortunately, it's been too long, and I didn't enjoy physics either. So I wasn't that great at it. Man, why is there so many calculus questions coming in there? I guess I'm gonna have to start updating my calculus videos. There's a lot that we can talk about differentiation and derivatives. I don't even know where I would start with you. If you submit a question, be more very, very specific, and I can try to see if I can make a video on it. But I'm not sure if on a live stream, how easy that'd be able to for me to give you some talking points that would actually give you value. Oh, you're giving me a word problem. I don't like word problems, especially on live streams. They're not very fun to do, which you probably agree with. But also they're kind of hard to do on live streams. But feel free to go and submit this to brianmclogan.com/Q&A. That'd be the easiest way for me to be able to address this. But yeah, it looks like it's a basic trigonometry problem that I should be able to do from on there. But submit it on there so I can post it so I can take the screen grab and post it on my paper, and I can kind of work through it. Where did my pen go? I have my pen. There it is. Okay. How do you do perpendicular bisector proofs? Well, I don't know. Depends on what exactly we are working with, that we are given, and what, yeah, it depends on what we're given and what we're looking into exactly proof. So if you have a specific problem, you can go and submit it. Hello from England. How are you doing? Do you offer tutoring sessions? I do not offer tutoring sessions. I did do some tutoring last year for free tutoring that I helped with students, and I would like to kind of get that back up, but at this moment, I don't have anything available. But I will say I will have something coming up here relatively soon that you'll just want to stay tuned to that. Is -6 factorial? Actually, you know what? I'd have to go back and look back up there. I'm not sure, but I'm sure a Google search would remember. I don't really recall -6 factorial. Yeah, I'd actually have to go back and remind myself on that. I am in college, always really grateful for help. You've been helping me in high school. Well, awesome. Well, you're very welcome. So happy to help you out. What are your thoughts on AP Calc AB exam? What's the best way to study for it? Practice, 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 practice. It's not fun. It's not exciting, but there's so many past exams. The reason why the past exams are so helpful is because it gives you something to practice with. So the more practice problems you do, the better you're going to be familiar with the way that the questions are asked, the way that the types of problems you're going to see, and the better prepared you're going to be. I'm a proponent of AP like Calc, BC or AB. But it also is something that relatively can be gamed. So if you're going to play the game, you want the college credit, put in a lot of work. It can be a fast-paced course for a lot of students. But once you kind of get into like mid-year, you're able to have enough information. Now you can start working through past exams, past papers. Do that. Do more than what your teacher is even offering you. You should be constantly be doing those practice problems. That is how you're going to be best prepared. Hey, Raf, good to have you on. Just letting you know, you're my lifesaver. I always watch your videos after class for help, and I'm doing homework. Thank you. You're very welcome, Amber. I'm so happy to be there with you to assist. And even some of my videos I made probably way back in the day, and hopefully some of the newer videos as well. I'm happy to be there for you, and I wish you the best of luck. Keep working hard. Here in Europe, the math is not hard. You should come over to Europe, mate. I love your channel. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And kudos to you. Keep on, if it's not hard, keep on challenging yourself. And I guarantee you're going to keep on, you will be able to find something to go through. So always seek the challenge. And but kudos to you for putting in the work, having a good grasp and understanding, but keep seeking that challenge. Oh man, so much calculus going on. I gotta go back and refresh myself. Sorry about that, guys. Can you go over tips or tricks to graph or find the equation from sine cosine? All right, now you just hit me on this one. So I am actually going to tip and trick to graph or find the equation from sine cosine. Well, I don't have tips and tricks to, I like this, and I'll make a video on this actually relatively soon, but let me show you guys a quick thing, because this is a tip or trick to graph sine, cosine, tangent. All right. And this is something that I was going to actually make a video on. So I am actually going to show you guys this. Okay. This is my favorite tip or trick. All right. So let's write this in there. Tip and trick to graph sine and cosine. Okay, so pay attention here. One thing we need to know, unit circle. We have these coordinates, right? This is going to be 1, 0. This is going to be 0, 1. This one is going to be -1, 0. And this one's going to be 0, -1. All right, these are all going to be XY coordinates. Now remember, when we have points that are on the unit circle, we can evaluate the sine, cosine, and the sine, cosine, and tangent, but we'll just talk about sine and cosine. So if we're looking at these as terms of angles, right, we know this angle in this standard form is going to be 0. This would be a pi halves. Halfway around the circle is going to be pi. 3 pi halves. And then all the way around the circle is going to be 2 pi. Now, obviously, we could go in the negative direction. We could keep on going. But to graph sine and cosine, we're just going to do what we call the initial period. Okay? So that's all I'm going to graph. I'm not going to graph everything. So the initial period, now when we're graphing on a XY line for trigonometric graphs, rather than using X, we're going to consider these the input, and we're going to use theta. So you could use X and just say X is going to be the angle. But in this case, I'm going to use theta. And then here, I am just going to use, let's just use a function, f of X equals cosine of theta. Okay, so then this is going to be my f of X axis. So again, you could use y and x, right? It's really the exact same thing, ladies and gentlemen. Just depends on what you're using for your equations from on there, or your function notation. Okay, but I'm going to call this f of X equals theta. Just remember, this is your input, right? And then this is going to be your output. So, because this is a function, so input, output. Okay, and then we'll also do, I'll do sine in red. So cosine, let's do the angles. So the first angle would be 0. Remember, cosine represents the x coordinate. So in that case, we have a 1. And then we go to pi halves. X coordinate is at 0. So we'll do pi halves. Let's just do pi. 3 pi halves. And then we'll do 2 pi. Okay, so we're at 0, 0, and then let's go to pi. The x coordinate is -1, so that's going to be down here. The next input would be 3 pi halves. At 3 pi halves, the x coordinate is going to be 0, so that would be your output. So that goes there, and then at 2 pi, we're back up to 1. So that is how the cosine graph is going to look, something like that. Not that great, sorry about that. Something right there, right? Dang it. I hate my graph. I'm just going to redo it. Okay, so it looks something like this. Really bad, but whatever. And then if we did f of X equals the sine of theta, right? Theta is your inputs, that's your angle, and then whatever's going to be the y coordinate is going to be your output. So here we have 0, the y coordinate is at 0. At pi halves, the y coordinate is 1. At pi, the y coordinate is back to 0. At 3 pi halves, the y coordinate is at -1. And at 2 pi, not 2 pi halves, at 2 pi, the y coordinate is back to 0. So you can see that is how we get the sine graph. And that is the quickest, fastest way, what I would call my tips and tricks to be able to graph the sine, rather than always trying to think about evaluating them. Just think of the unit circle. Like, these points are very, very easy to memorize, right? And then you could talk about the transformation, stuff like that, but that's a really whole different video. But hopefully this kind of helps you at least have a basic understanding from there. I have no idea. That's a great question. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not even sure where that question came from. Why are you interested in that? I'm interested in like where you thought about that. I guess maybe you're planning on going into dentistry. I don't know. Ooh, that's a good one. Maybe put that into brianmclogan.com/Q&A and I'll spend some time looking at it. How much would you say your assessment problems differed from the practice problems you would give in class? Would you say they're roughly the same difficulty, or did you like to challenge your students? So, great question. And maybe a lot of teachers wouldn't really advise, I wouldn't say really advise, but maybe not open up on this. So let's pretend I have a 20 question test, and let's just pretend they're multiple choice. So typically when I was creating my assessments, because every year I recreated my new assessments because I always gave my students back their assessment because I always wanted them to learn from their mistakes and use those as study tools for upcoming tests. But in reality, those students would eventually share them with other students, so you couldn't reuse the same tests. And I didn't want to like hold them and keep them and not have to make new tests. So I always try to make new tests. And also my teaching would always vary a little bit. So it was always helpful to have updated tests each and every chapter, even though it was a lot of work. However, to answer your question, if I had 20 points, let's say multiple choice, I would always try to include at least out of those problems, 2 to 3 problems that would be challenging to students. Not to say that they're not covering topics that we haven't already learned, but they're going to be something where students have not directly seen exactly this. There's no way that they could have prepared or anticipated these types of questions. And then I'd probably say, in addition to that, then probably another like 10 questions would probably be like very similar to either problems that we covered on the quiz, in the homework, or in our examples. So they'd be very much related to those, kind of like much more of a regurgitation. And then there'd probably be like 2 problems that are just like very basic that like every student should be able to answer. Like if you basically walked into class, you would know how to do that. So usually right around, that's not even 15 yet. I guess that would be 7. So maybe we do, yeah, I'm sorry, I guess probably like 15 questions. So the majority of the questions I would probably do that would be very similar to what students have already seen. And I'm just making sure that they can do it. But I always try to do, yes, have some challenge questions and then also some very easy questions for students. That's how I always try to balance things. And that's just one example of a multiple choice test. But that's a great question. Thank you. What do you think about IB? Is that hard? I'm studying it already 1 year, and I wanted to ask you, is it really worth it? It depends on you. It depends on you. I can't really offer advice on there. I would have a conversation with your parents, your current instructor, and maybe even your counselor is like, what is your goal? What is your plan with taking these courses, putting in this challenge? It can be really good, but it's not right for everybody. And I feel like a lot of people feel like they are a failure if they're not always challenging themselves. But in reality, we don't need to be a master of everything, right? You got to be able to identify what you're good at, what you enjoy, and put your focus in on there. So if it's not the right fit, don't feel bad. Focus in on the stuff that you enjoy and that you can be the best at and that you can challenge yourself. Like challenge is good. Don't just hide away just because something's hard and say, maybe it's not right for me. But I also realize that I think a lot of students always are in this competition with other students. They always feel like they have to be taking all these harder courses or they're never going to get by in life or never going to succeed. And that's not the truth. So have that conversations with your parents, your counselor, and your instructor, and just see if continuing in this course is the right fit for you and what you really want in your life and what you want to achieve. Hopefully that helps. I'm based in Zambia, Africa. Do you think creating UK math curriculum content such as EdXL and IGCSE would help my channel perform well in terms of views and engagements? I don't know how much content is on YouTube regarding those two, but if you feel like drawn to making content that helps other people, then do it. I made videos on math for probably 6 years before anybody really even started knowing about my channel. Now, obviously, I wouldn't say just waste 6 years of your life just making content that nobody wants to view. Obviously, you always want to improve your craft and make good videos. But I think to answer your question directly, the market is not saturated. There's a ton of content online. I'm sure there's a ton of content online for these types of curriculum. However, you can still separate you can still separate yourself apart based on how you instruct and based on the problems that you are doing and the video content. So, yeah, go for it. And then keep on working harder, making your videos better, connecting with your students, seeing what they want, and I wish you all the best of luck. Is there a language you wanted to learn? What would it be? Yeah, kind of personal questions. That's okay. I took 2 years of Spanish. Didn't really do that well in it, but it was really nice to be able to communicate. Actually, I had a rugby player. He was from the Basque country in Spain, or the Basque region, I guess. And he would say country, but Basque region. I'll say country, the Basque country around in Spain. But he spoke Spanish, and I was able to communicate with him a little bit with Spanish because his English was a little, here or there. And so that was really nice. But my Spanish is very, very limited. But I would probably say that, yeah, I don't know, Spanish or French. I guess those have been the most interactions. Like I do have some, um, those are the ones I probably had the most interactions with, being able to like need to communicate with people, even in being in like parts of Canada and, going from on there. So yeah, I don't know. I think my wife took French, and that's why she has some like French knowledge, and it's always, kind of cool. And I have some French Canadian relatives that speak French, and yeah, I don't know. I don't have like a direct need to speak in those, but I kind of wish also I would have grown up being more bilingual than I am. I like it. It was tough. It was one of the toughest classes that I ever had to take, and I put in a really, really lot of hard work to pass the course. But it was one of those courses also that made me really kind of love and enjoy mathematics, because I like that abstractness of the math rather than like always applied stuff. So that was one thing that kind of really made me think about, should I be a teacher, or should I just continue learning about all this stuff? And I ended up, obviously I chose becoming a teacher, but there still is always that itch to me of like, this stuff is really cool. This stuff is really exciting. I like this, but it was really, really hard for me, and I had to work really, really hard. So that's my thoughts. No, I do not know anything about 3D graphic techniques. Can you use, well, submit it to brianmclogan.com/Q&A, and I will do my best. Hi, Aman. Oh, Aman, why do I have to do? Remember my name because you'll hear my name. And okay. I used to answer this question. Let me think. I taught calculus for 2 years in AB, but my mind is drawing a blank. I'd rather say applications of differentiation, applications of integration. Those are maybe the two difficult, because they usually deal with a lot of like word problems, stuff like that from on there. So I'd probably say those 2 chapters. Okay, it's been a long time since I did any related rates. So to be honest with you, I'm probably not going to be able to do it. Thank you so much for submitting. I'll go and take a look at it and see what I can do, but it's been a while since I did related rate. So it would probably take me way too long to kind of remember the best way to approach the problem as well as explain it. So it probably won't be something I'm going to be able to hop on with, um, on the live stream. Oh yeah. Good, ARF. Yeah. Thank you so much. Well, yes, that would be, yes. Thank you, dude. You're the best. Wasn't even paying attention. That's F of theta. Well, why does it not let me do it? There you go. That's my input variable. I guess I should have just done y and then theta. Would have been easier. But either way, hopefully you guys understand. Where'd I go? I lost my thing. There you go. You're very welcome. I appreciate your help. You helped me exams. Much love. Oh, Ghana. Well, thank you, bro, from Africa. I love it. Harris, thank you so much. I've done one question for calculus. How do you find the x coordinates of the vertical tangent lines? I do wonder for calculus, how do you find the x coordinates of the vertical tangent lines? I don't know why everybody's bombarding me with calculus stuff. I got to go back through my calculus. I will get to my calculus questions. I apologize for you guys. Jeez. Can you go over if you're presented with a problem that gives slope and you ask to find the intercept? Yeah, if you submit it to brianmclogan.com/Q&A, I will try to do my best. It's from solving problems with velocity and time using a vector. All right, if you submit it, then I'll try to do my best. Take a look at it. Go ahead and submit it, brianmclogan.com/Q&A, but you're going to have to square both sides and usually probably get those onto the same side. If the square root of therefore x is greater than or equal to -9, can I leave it as domain? It depends on the kind of question. If you're using interval notation or how your instructor is asking for domain to be written. So I would check with them as far as what they are requesting. Well, depending how do you find the perpendicular bisector of a triangle? I guess depends on what information you're given that we can go ahead and use to find. I don't recall a theorem exactly of being able to identify. I mean, obviously, if we know it creates a 90-degree angle and the two sides are going to be equal, I'm trying to think of remembering any kind of theorems, but I'm not sure. I guess whatever information you're trying to identify, what you have, then you can go to use to be able to identify. How do I get a 1500 plus SAT score? What should I want to work hard, but also smart so I can get a 15 plus score? Well, I would just advise, the SAT is just like any of the AP exams. Get a practice booklet or, go online. There's tons of resources online. I would recommend having like either a coach or study groups, people that you can work through problems and do as many problems as you possibly can. Again, you're learning how these questions are being asked of you, what they're expecting of you. And I think the more problems that you can work through, the better prepared you are going to be for the SAT or the ACT or an AP exam. Well, thank you. I am how I am. And yeah, I don't hide behind a computer screen from on there. Hey. I was going to say your name, but then I'm like, dang it. Anya? Maybe correct me for pronunciation. Hey, Alaska. Prince, Dylan. Mr. McLogan, I'm new to calculus and I'm struggling. What do you think is a good thought process to go through when solving any calculus problem to make the least mistakes possible? That's a great question. I think take it slow. And I also think you got to start with the foundation of like always asking yourself whenever you're doing a calculus or any math question, but in terms of calculus, like make sure you're writing down all the stuff that you know. Make sure you're looking at the processes that you're being taught and saying like, all right, how can I apply what is currently being taught or what I've learned to this problem? But make sure you always start with that foundational knowledge. I can say from calculus, that's where a lot of students make their mistakes, is not actually on the calculus stuff. It's the foundational stuff that they're supposed to be bringing to them that they forget, or that's where they make a lot of those mistakes. So make sure you reinforce the things that you already know, and then you don't make mistakes there, because that's where a lot of students make mistakes, is on the algebra, not always the calculus. Yeah, that's sometimes that's how I feel like this live stream went. It was just all calculus. So I'm like, it's been like 4 years since I taught calculus. I just, unless you're doing it, I got to go back through and remember all this stuff. And at least it's not even about remembering it all, but it's also putting myself into that teacher brain of how to explain things so that students don't get more confused as you're going through the problem. I am a warrior. Well, awesome. I love it. In your opinion, is it worth to study SAT and the IELTS or only IB? It's all up to you. Speak to your teacher, your counselor, and your instructor, and identify what is the most important for you that is going to make the most amount of sense. I can't give you that advice. I don't know enough about you and what your goals are and where you're at. So those are conversations that you'll want to have with them to kind of decide the best place moving forward. Mr. McLogan, I'm taking Calc 2 right now. Do you honestly remember all the trig identities and functions off the top of your head? A lot of them. And, I taught a lot of the identities year after year, right? So you just kind of get them memorized. I will say the ones that I do usually forget. And again, it only takes me, if I went through them, let's say I taught the class or the course this year, or even just like one section and I taught them, I would go back and remember them. But usually like the double angle and the half angle for tangent, I was just confused, like the plus and the minus, like where they go, like the addition and the subtraction, like I just kind of forget. So those are two that I usually mix up with the tangent. But yeah, sum and difference are fairly basic. Double angle, half angle, usually just need to refresh myself and then I'll remember them. Obviously Pythagorean, quotient, reciprocal, those are all basic. Once you do them enough, you get them memorized. And then we never did the product sum formula, so I don't remember any of those. It wasn't part of our curriculum, but yeah, most of them I would say I can go off the top of my head. How do you manage your time? Well, my time, I try to break up my time, and I try to decide what is going to be the most important thing that I need to get done in that day. And I usually like to start with those things first. I do like to break up my time into certain segments, so therefore I can have something to achieve and then move on to the next thing. But I'm just as guilty as you guys of getting, distracted with other things taking longer than they're supposed to, hoping that they're going to not take as long. I've had a lot of interruptions now that being a father and like now spending time with my kids. And it's like, oh man, I have so many other things I need to be doing. But then it's like, what's the most important thing for you to be doing today? It's like spending time with your kids, not just, doing something else, doing work in front of them, right? So it becomes difficult. So it really is trying to identify what I can do to maximize, my output in the next 30 minutes or in the next hour. And always trying to do the most important things that if the only thing I got done that day, because my life does change a variable, I always try to do those things early, first thing in the morning. I wake up very early and get my day started that way. And that's what's helpful for me there. That's what's been helpful for me. Where do I start inverse functions? I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I usually start with inverse with like linear equations and then expand and go harder from there. I thought I did have a video, or maybe I will have one coming up for you on that. Probably actually trig identities. That is actually one of my favorite. It's an interesting question. I've never really thought about. Do I feel math should be taught the same way around the world? I think in like principle, like yes, but I think there's just also so many dynamics that go into that of what we're trying to achieve and the backgrounds that students have. I don't feel like having a coordinated one curriculum would be sufficient for our world's population. But it's an interesting question, something I haven't really thought about, from on there. And I feel like in general, math is taught very much the same, but also like there's so much uniqueness, not only between cultures and countries, but between people, that having some of that variability provides a benefit, I would say. So yeah, I'm still not sure though. Awesome. You're very welcome. What is f of -2? Is it just 2? Well, no, you got to have a function. You plug in -2 into that function, and then you can see whatever the output is, that would be your answer. And what made you want to be a math teacher specifically? I remember sitting in my junior year. I remember sitting in my classroom. It was my sociology class. And I remember we had to write down like what we wanted to become. And all of my role models were my coaches that I had in high school. And they are all teachers and they all coach sports. And so I really wanted to become a coach and, teach something. Unfortunately, though, for me, the only course that I really was like that excited about actually teaching was math. And my mom was actually a math teacher. So I kind of had a little draw towards that. But the problem was my grade in math was not that great. I had a D in pre-calculus and like I enjoyed math, but I just wasn't good at it. But nevertheless, I decided like math teacher was the right profession for me. And then I went full straight on with it and worked my way through all the struggles of relearning the stuff I should have learned the first time that I didn't care about and just glossed over just to pass a test and move on. I had to relearn all that stuff back going through college. Worked really hard, but yeah, that's kind of my story. Um, just slow down. I think practice helps out a lot. I think having an opportunity to always, check your work is very helpful. But I think if you can always slow down, that a lot and try not to show your work, like try not to do mental math. That's a lot of times where I make my mistakes. I try to do mental math and then I'll make a mistake. And I don't shy away from, I've made a lot of mistakes. I still make mistakes even on the live stream, right? From on there. So it's very easy to do it. You just got to be careful and just learn from them. That depends on you. There's definitely some huge benefits on either way. I would have a conversation with your parents, your instructor, and your counselor, and just kind of see what feels like the best fit for you. And then go for there, test it out. You can always kind of change. That's at least the nice thing about, I would say, physics and math is there's going to be some common courses that could fit, and maybe you can do a minor and major in one. And then you, if you decide to switch, you didn't lose all those credits either way. It all depends. I saw Yahoo article is like, how much sleep is too much sleep? And I was like, oh, I should click on this. I don't really sleep a lot. I usually go to bed, relatively late, and I wake up at 4:30. But I think everybody is different. My wife needs a lot of sleep. And so, I think it just, everybody is a little bit different. And then throughout the year, sometimes I get very exhausted and then I'll oversleep, compared to my wife. So listen to your body. And once you kind of find that right pace, just try to be consistent with that. And I think that overall will help you out. It's Shiva. I just saw a 12-year-old video explaining the determination of trigonometry angles and quadrants. Maybe then you were teaching in some coaching. Do you still remember that? By the way, big fan, sir. Well, thank you so much. It was at my video that was 12 years old. I mean, it could have been, definitely. I have videos from 2010, but I do not recall that specific video from that. Sorry. But yeah, I probably had a coaching shirt. That's when I was coaching, probably 12 years ago. So question, can we do direct substitution and limit while finding continuity? Some people say we should not, because by direct substitution, we are already assuming the function to be continuous. Yeah, there's some times where direct substitution can fail us. So we got to be able to test continuity, because you could have direct substitution. You could have for instance, let me just show you this. You want to check continuity first, because let me just give you an example. So here is an equation, or here's a graph. Right? Now, this is just an example. But again, like if you were to do this graph is obviously not continuous, right? There's a hole in the graph. You can't say that's continuous. However, if you were to use direct substitution, you would see that the graph would have a value at, I don't know, whatever this number is, like at 3. So yes, that would be a reason why using just direct substitution to prove continuity would fail. All right, going to get to a couple more questions, then I got to get to this math that you guys submitted to there. Put in the work, ask questions when you don't understand something. Always ask your teacher, find a study group, find a study partner. It's very fast paced. So just make sure you're staying on top of it. And when you start to struggle, make sure you get help, ask questions. Don't hide behind your struggles. Seek help and put in the work. Absolutely not. No, I think every math is going to be possible. It just takes time. Everybody's at a different timetable. And so I don't think it's fair to compare yourself to anybody else on how they're doing math. Focus on yourself, focus on what you're learning and improving. And I think you'd be amazed at what you're able to achieve. I like that idea. Cool. All right. I'm going to get into some of the math. Thank you so much, guys, for your questions. If you do still have another question for me to answer, feel free to add it into the chat. I'll try to do like a rapid fire at the end. But I did want to get to some of the math that was submitted. Hopefully I can. Oh, dang it. Let's see if I can go backwards. Nope. All right. I'm going to have to click my way all the way to 92. I thought I had open, but I guess I maybe reset my computer or something like that. So we are going to click. Let me open that up. I graduated. Well, awesome. Yeah, that's so happy. I'm so happy for you. And it's such a good feeling. I remember when I graduated, it was like just one of like the biggest like exciting things, and then also like a relief, because it's a lot of work. Just going through all of your courses, balancing, your different courses. And I actually still have I actually have nightmares and dreams. I remember even like when I was still a teacher of like, oh my God, I forgot to drop this class, or I forgot I had a test this day. Cause like, you different courses, you're always like planning and preparing, like tests are on different times and you're dealing with different personalities, different instructors. It was just stressful. It could be a stressful time. And so kudos to you for getting through there. That is a great question. I am actually not familiar with the PSAT for 8th and 9th grade. So I wouldn't know, but I'm sure there has to be some resources on that. What do I have a degree in? So actually I have a degree in secondary education with I guess it was called like an emphasis in math. It was a degree in arts, education arts. But I remember like I was very salty when I got my degree because for whatever reason, I thought it was like a degree in mathematics. And then I looked at it and actually all the courses I had was the same as a bachelor's in mathematics, but you could only choose. You could only do a mathematics degree or a bachelor in education with an emphasis in mathematics. And since I was going into education, that was the one that wanted. So I hate my diploma because it says like, actually, oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, it's a bachelor's of arts. And I'm like education. So it's like, it says nothing in math. I'm like, I took a lot of math classes, like I'm kind of salty. I'm still salty a little bit about that. All right. If you have a question, a math question, go at brianmclogan.com/Q&A, and I'll try to do my best to answer it on this live stream. I want to do computer science, but I'm not that good at math. And the quality of education infrastructure in my country is also poor. Well, you're texting me on YouTube. There is amazing people teaching the math that you need on computer science, I guarantee, on YouTube. If you're not able to relate, you don't have the quality education of where you're at, the power of YouTube, the power of learning now is that you have access to all this information. Take advantage of it. Put in more work than you might feel that is also necessary. But you can do it. You can find the information that you need if you're willing to do it and you're willing to put in the work. Nothing is going to prevent you from seeking that computer science degree. You got this. Can you explain identifying a function as a monomial in terms of exponents? Well, yeah, just a monomial is just going to be a product of your exponents from on there. So you could have 3x squared, y cubed, from on there. You can't have negative powers and you can't have fractional powers. But so just remember those kind of two things, and you can't have any addition or subtraction because then you're dealing with a polynomial, not a monomial. Why is my mouse not working? Oh. It is not. It is not required. I mean, obviously, every place is going to be a little bit different on what they require. But yeah, for a lot of schools, it's not required to have a degree. No. I was a kid that like mostly got C's and sometimes we get B's. But I only think I got an A in my math class sophomore year. But no, I was not a math genius by any means. Any advice for a freshman really struggling with math? I've diagnosed learning difficulty, so it's really hard to understand and lectures don't explain very well. Thanks. Yeah. Make sure you're talking with your teacher. Make sure they should know, obviously, if you're learning, difficulties or if you have disabilities. And so make sure they're aware, make sure you're getting the proper support in that regard. And then also I think that like, you know, sometimes math just takes a longer time for people to process the information, but you got to be able to identify a way that you can keep on moving forward. So I would recommend getting like a study partner or getting a study group or something that, or even a tutor that can help you, understand the information maybe from a different angle that will help you comprehend it maybe a little bit quicker than you just doing it on your own. Um, from on there. But, keep on asking questions, keep on being curious to understand things, and just take things at your pace. I know it's really hard and it's difficult because at the certain times of the year, you have to take a test. No matter what you don't know or don't know, like everybody's forced to take the test. But I think if you can maybe put in that work, sometimes for you, it might be a little bit even more work. But every day be trying to do some math and staying current. But if you just give up and just give yourself an excuse that math is hard for you or you have a disability and you can't learn this and that's the reason why, you're going to be in the same boat. So accept where you're at, accept the challenges that you have in front of you, understand or look for what you can do, what is achievable for you, and put in the work to do that. And I hope you have a great rest of your year, and please stay in touch. Let me know. I do not have a master's degree. Well, awesome. So everybody help you out. All right. I don't know. I started doing proofs, I think, in geometry, I guess. All right. Let's go into some math real quick. Ooh, okay. All right, it's been a long time since I did these questions, so I'm going to try to do my best. But I like how you do have a picture. So thank you for providing me that. All right, a straight highway leads to the foot of a tower. A man is standing at the top of the tower, observes a car at an angle of depression of 30 degrees. Okay, so cool. All right, so here's the top of the tower, right? A man standing at the top of the tower, so we got a little dude right here. And then they observes a car, so we have a car right here, which is approaching the foot of the tower with a uniform speed. 6 seconds later, the angle of pressure on the car is to be 60 degrees. Gotcha. Find the time taken by the car to reach the foot of the tower from this point, which is approaching the foot of the tower with the 6 seconds later. All right, so I already know that D equals rate times time. That is a formula that you're going to need to remember for a problem like this. Okay, so always remember that formula. I don't know why it's so zoomed in. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is create some triangles. So we do have a couple triangles we can draw. Now, what I usually like to do is I like to just draw them on the right angle from on there. Now, does it say how tall this tower is? No. Okay. So we don't have any length of the tower, but we do know that this angle here is going to be 30 degrees. We don't know what this is, so let's just call that H. And that's going to be a right angle. And then the next time, you could go over here, 30 degrees, and actually you could even do a 60 from on there. So we have that, well, I'll just do a 30 height, there you go. And then the next one is a 60. So actually, if that is going to be, well, yeah, you could do it from on there. Oh, that was doing on that angle. Yeah, well, I guess we could do that. That is going to be H. And then really, if that case, we're looking for the difference between there. So if this is going to be X, and this would be like Y, then what we're looking for is X minus Y. Yeah, it feels like a problem I've done, but I got to go back through. Let's see. What other information we're given? Straight highway leads to foot tower. 30 was approaching. Angle of depression of the car is found to be 60 degrees. Find the time. Okay. So now these are so we do know that we have a special right triangle. The only problem is I just don't know a height. I feel like I want to know what the height is to be able to find that, because once you know the height, you can use special right triangles to do that. Unless somebody has something else on there, let me know, but I'm going to have to skip it. Like if you have the height, if that is let's see, this is going to be the short end. So this would be 2h, and this would be h squared of 3. Let me just write in this thing. So this would be h, come on. And then if this is 60 degrees, then this would be, that's a 30 degree and that's a 60 degree. And that's still going to be h. Why am I confusing myself? That's going to be, right? That's just h. That's 2h. And then over here, if that's going to be, that's h, then that'd be the long one. Dang it, I'm confusing myself. That's why I don't do that's why I don't do these things. I'll come back to you. I will get the answer to that question, and I'll come back on the live stream. I apologize for that, but I need to go back and bring my memory. I can't do these things on live streams. Got to make myself think, get myself confused. And also, I've been talking for, how long has this been going on for now? Yeah, 45 minutes. I'm already like, brain starting to melt. I'll get back to you on that. All right. Is there a quick way to graph cotangent, secant, and cosecant? Yeah, it's the same thing. Like, so, so the easiest thing that I always like to do is, again, I tell students what I made this video on before. Like, you have this, right? 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, and 0, 1, right? So you can use this information to graph cosine. Cosine of x, let's just use y. Okay, I'll do y and x. Remember, x is going to represent the angle. So we have 0, pi halves, pi, 3 pi halves, and 2 pi. So therefore, you can, based on these angles, that'd be pi halves. This is pi, 3 pi halves, and 2 pi. Let me just do one of them for the sake of time. Oops. So in this case, again, as you're going through this, like you have cosine, here's cosine of x, right? At pi, it's at -1, right? And here's that 1. And then you go back up, boom, boom. Okay. And again, I'm just using, for each angle, I'm taking the x coordinate. So we're at 1. At pi halves, we're at 0. At pi, we're at -1. At 3 pi halves, we're at 0 again. And at 2 pi, we're back up at 1, right? Now again, what about the secant graph? Well, the secant graph is just going to be a reciprocal. It's just going to be 1 over the x coordinate. So 1 over 1 is 1. 1 over 0 is undefined. 1 over -1 is -1. 1 over 0 again is going to be undefined. And then 1 over 1 again is 1. And then you can see it reciprocates itself. So you can quickly graph the cosine function by just doing 1 over x. For sine, it's going to be 1 over y. And for tangent, it's going to be x over y. And that's the quick way to be able to quickly graph cotangent, secant, and cosecant. Know the unit circle, know what the points are, create the original function, and then use the reciprocal to find the reciprocal function. See, graphing quadratics. All right, which question? You got to be more specific if you have a question that you want me to be able to do. I don't know. You sent me a whole test. I can't go over all of this. So yeah, son, send me which question you actually want me to address, and I'll be more than happy to focus on that. So yeah, can you do number 3? I don't know. Let's see. No, I got to go back and remember this. Sorry, Angelica. I don't understand how to tackle this question. Where do you start? I got to go back from that one too. Sorry, guys. I don't know why I got all this calculus today, but I haven't done calculus in like 4 years, so I got to go back and remember all that stuff. I did that last time. All right, let me go and answer a couple more questions from you guys. Sorry, I will next stream. I'm gonna get some more math questions from you guys. I promise. Well, you're very welcome, Richard. Thank you so much for that. Well, awesome. Thank you. I do not have a math book to recommend, unfortunately, right now. Can you help me find the slope of equations of lines? Well, yeah, at y equals m, just make sure you put it in point slope form. Y equals mx plus b, where m is going to represent the slope. I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for on your test that you have tomorrow, but I would just put it in y equals mx plus b form. So whatever equation you have, solve, isolate for y. And then remember m, which is your slope, is always going to be the coefficient of the x variable. I don't know. I do have like some easy, medium, hard of literal equations. And, there's a couple different techniques that make literal equations more difficult. So I would just look into some examples, look on YouTube. I have many examples of literal equations, see what the most difficult is, and just, get some practice working through them and see how they compare. Are you loaded from YouTube? Oh, I guess maybe like money. No, I'm not. All right, cool. The best return. Well, thank you very much. No, I don't have any specific question or tips for arithmetic sequences. But again, guys, thank you so much for joining the stream. I will try to work on my things on the math questions, getting you guys all set up and prepared for that. So therefore I can get to the math questions. I thank you so much, guys, for adding in all of your comments. I really, really appreciate it. Brendan, I am so happy. Brendan, I'm so happy to be able to help you out. Congratulations and thank you so much. But yeah, you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will be back next week. Cheers. Get out. Man, you guys are bringing in some awesome questions. All right, I got to go.